So back when I was growing up, the Republican Party claimed to be the party of accountability and responsibility, and one of their favorite catchphrases was pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, they always have been very hypocritical, but back then they were just better at keeping it all under a rug. They weren't as out and open with it until Donald Trump came down the escalator, and once they realized, you know what, if you just go ahead and lean into it and just be the absolute biggest jerk you can possibly be, there will still be an audience of people out there that will absolutely eat it up. And if you create this narrative that everything that's spoke against you is fake news and you can get them to buy it, then you can just take the gloves off. And you don't have to worry about pulling yourself up by the boots anymore. You don't have to worry about taking any accountability anymore. You can just lean in and be the absolute biggest jerk you want to be. And now that all this has came out on Mark Robinson, and it's alleged at the moment, but all of these allegations have came out on him, his staff is just absolutely dropping like flies. They're getting the hell out of Dodge. He has lost his general consultant and his campaign advisor. The campaign manager, the finance director, and the deputy campaign manager have all said, you know what, we can't be associated with this anymore, and they've jumped ship. Mark Robinson, at the time I'm making this video, is still out there saying he's going to hang in there and he's not giving up. And politicians are going to bat for him. And again, this would have ended anyone's political career in any other era. But now they're just leaning into it because Trump's empowered them to do so. And of course, his little running mate, Vance, goes out there, and every time this guy tries to defend somebody or go to bat somebody, he just fails miserably. And it's so funny to watch. Take a look.
Are you comfortable with Mark Robinson as the Republican nominee for governor in North Carolina?
Well, look, the allegations are pretty far out there, of course, but I know that allegations aren't necessarily reality. And what I'd say is it's ultimately up to Mark Robinson in North Carolina whether he's going to be their governor and whether he wants to stay in the race.
Do you believe him that those were not his posts?
I don't not believe him. I don't believe him. I just think that you have to let these things sometimes play out in the court of public opinion.
As always, he just completely tripped all over himself. I don't believe him. I don't not believe him. We'll just let these things play out in the court of public opinion. Okay, you're going to hear more people say that. That's going to be one of their arguments. We'll just let the public decide on this. But let's break this down for a minute. Let's say that these allegations are true. Then that would mean he's completely unfit to serve for office, right? Just because he could get people to vote for him, should we be okay with that? Should we be okay with him getting a bunch of people to vote for him despite if the allegations are true? That's the part that makes no sense to me when they say, we'll just let it play out. We'll let the voters decide on whether or not they want this person in there. I realize the voters have the say, but my argument would be, would you say that about Charles Manson? Would you say it about John Wayne Gacy? Would you say, well, I know this guy had 30 people in his crawl space, but we're just going to let the people decide on this one? You wouldn't want to throw that under the bus. JD doesn't want to throw that under the bus. Now, what's funny about JD is I've had people reach out to me and say and ask me, Brando, do you think JD's a plant? Do you think that he's been put there to like just completely bomb this campaign? Because it's just like every time he steps out there, he absolutely does a nosedive. And I've had people say, you know what? I believe Don Jr. wanted him on there because Don Jr. secretly wants his dad to lose. The thing about it is I could never give JD credit to be smart enough to get in there and mess up the campaign. He just does a good job of that by acting naturally. He just does a good enough job of that on his own. But he's not the only one out there that is defending Mark Robinson. Here is Tom Cotton. And as we roll some of these clips of MAGA politicians defending Mark Robinson, you'll see that they reach into their bag of tricks. And of course, one of them is always, you got to bring up Kamala Harris. Take a look.
Porn site calling himself a black Nazi, praising Mein Kampf, saying that Adolf Hitler would have been better than Barack Obama. That is your party's nominee for governor in North Carolina, who has been anti-Semitic for years. Do you like him? You think he should be the next governor of North Carolina?
Look, I've seen these allegations, Jake, and they're concerning allegations. He owes the people of North Carolina...
The Shekels thing was under his name on his Facebook page.
He owes the people of North Carolina more answers about it. But we're talking about the presidential race here that matters to everyone, not just the people in one state. Kamala Harris owes the American people a lot more answers. Like, for instance, what she would do about the wars in the Middle East. Not just in Gaza, but Hezbollah versus Israel, for that matter, the Iranian-backed terrorists in Yemen that continually target American sailors. Kamala Harris owes a lot of answers to the American people.
Do you think that Trump should still support Mark Robinson in North Carolina?
I'll leave that to President Trump, and most importantly, I'll leave it to the people of North Carolina.
You know, I really wish that reporters would hold these people's feet to the fire just a little bit harder and say, sir, we were not talking about Kamala Harris. forget Kamala Harris for a minute and let's focus in on Mark Robinson and let's talk strictly and solely about that. And do not say Kamala Harris. Do not say Joe Biden. Do not say Barack Obama. Do not say Hillary Clinton. Do not say fake news. They ought to put a shock collar on people like this. And every time they go off subject, just hit the buzzer. Because it's absolutely ridiculous that's where he wants to take it. Well, Kamala Harris has a lot of explaining to do. No, Kamala Harris will never have to explain that she said she was a black Nazi. Okay, Kamala Harris is not going to have to explain that she was on porn sites, talking about how she loved transgender porn, meanwhile talking about how transgender people are just the absolute worst. I mean, she's not going to have to defend herself of that. Mark Robinson is, and you're sitting there just deflecting and saying, well, what about Kamala? And if that don't work, you can always do what Lindsey Graham does. You can find a way to just blame it on the media. Take a look.
Posts up, very controversial on a pornographic website. He says he didn't do it. Former President Donald Trump spoke yesterday in North Carolina, didn't mention him, has not dropped his endorsement. Senator, do you think that former President Trump should drop his endorsement of Mark Robinson?
I think what's going to happen here is that he deserves a chance to defend himself, Mark Robinson. The charges are beyond unnerving. If they're true, he's unfit to serve for office. If they're not true, he has the best lawsuit in the history of the country for libel. He's claiming they were artificially created and that CNN passed it along to be true. Has NBC confirmed this?
Not yet. We're all looking into it.
Well, so what I would do if I were him, I would hire me the best lawyer I could find. I'd sue the hell out of CNN because what they're saying about him is just unbelievable. Now, he needs to do more, in my view. He has a right to defend himself. He has an obligation to defend himself. This is hanging over his campaign. Trump won in 2016 and 2020 when the governor candidate lost both times. I don't think this hurts Trump, but as to Robinson, he's a political zombie if he does not offer a defense to this that's credible.
Senator.
Now, I will say that Lindsey Graham is the slicker of the three that we watched. I mean, he's slicker than Vance. He's slicker than Cotton in the sense that he's like, you know what? Now, he does. These are serious allegations, and he's got to answer for these. But, you know, if the fake news media has lied on him, then he's got a case here, and he should just sue the pants off them for spreading these stories around. So he took it real quick and shifted it over to the media, the fake news. But he left himself an opening saying, now, if he did these things, he's not fit for office. That way, if the proof comes out and they all have to eat it, then he can say, well, I originally said. That they know how to play both ends of the candle. They know how to burn it at both ends. But watching the Republican Party morph into this, and like I said, I'm not going to sit here and give the Republican Party of my childhood a pass. I don't think Ronald Reagan was a good president, nor do I think H.W. Bush was. I sure as hell don't think George W. Bush was. I'm not giving those people a pass. I'm just saying that they managed to give answers that didn't make them look so blatantly hypocritical. We all knew that they were, but they weren't as out in the open and obvious with it. And the reason why that these MAGA politicians are today is because they saw it work for Donald Trump and they think that it can work for them. But folks, we're in the final stages, I truly feel, of Donald Trump. And I feel like that, you know, like they say, a narcissist's last stand is just a descent into madness. I really believe that's where Trump's headed. We're watching him spiral out of control. We're watching MAGA spiral with him as they try to defend it. What we have to do is stay focused on the issues at hand and realize that a lot of times what they're trying to do with all this stuff is to distract us from the issues at hand and to dodge any and all accountability. So we have to always hold them accountable, number one, and we have to stay focused on the issues at hand. And I really believe that we always need to keep talking about Roe versus Wade, the rights they've stripped away from women. We need to continue to talk about Donald Trump saying he would be dictator on day one, saying he would terminate the Constitution. Those are the things we have to stay focused on, and we have to stay focused on moving this country forward and not going back to Donald Trump. There are always going to be stories like this breaking, and Donald Trump will always surround himself with these people, and as long as they praise him, he'll be there for them. He'll defend them, and the people sees him defending it, and then they go in and try to defend it. And it's all pretty despicable and sickening to watch. But how many times in our lifetime have we saw Democratic politicians thrown under the bus by Democrats who called for their resignation? We saw Al Franken resign. We've saw so many people step down and move out of the way when things went south. But in MAGA's world, doesn't have to. they'll sit there and defend it. They never hold their own accountable for anything. They always give themselves an out. They always find a way to blame it on Kamala. They always find a way to blame it on fake news. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm just so tired of their rhetoric. I'm so tired of their shtick. It's just worn thin. It's got to the point now where I just want to see a sane conversation. And I don't mean to be a pessimist, but I don't know if we're ever going to see one as long as Maga's in the picture. Maybe someone will come out and try to find a way to spin their bullshit in a more eloquent manner, and we'll have to still recognize it for the bullshit that it is. But I just can't wait till they find a way to move past this and try to rebrand themselves as something else, because this is just so easy to debunk. You know, I realize that MAGA is low-hanging fruit, but unfortunately they're right in our face, and they're right there with the microphone, and they're loud, and you know, we're just gonna have to keep calling it out for what it is. But I really appreciate you guys so much for supporting what it is that I do here on the channel, and thank you all for hitting that subscribe button. If you haven't already, be sure to hit it and be subscribed. That way you're notified when I post new content. And if you haven't already, be sure to go over and check us out on Patreon. The link is in the bio here. I went out of town and I did some exclusive content where, you know, I took everybody along for the ride. So I do a lot of behind the scenes kind of stuff on there, and we have a lot of fun with that. If you haven't checked it out, be sure to. And again, thank you guys so much for supporting what it is that I do.